Hello everyone, thank you for attending this session. In this session, we'll discuss one of the most important subjects within the solution architecture, which impact different areas of the solution architecture. It impacts the security aspects, it impacts the performance aspects, and also the cost aspects. It's about the data retention model, yani why we have to have data retention approach, yani aligned between the business requirements and the architecture requirements. In this session, we'll discuss what is data retention, and we'll discuss the objectives of data retention and the benefits of having such approach. And moreover, we will talk about the rollout strategy and proposed architecture for the data retention model. So let's move forward. Number one, what is data retention model, or what is data retention? The data retention, it's a combination between policies and processes and technical controls that define how long we should store and keep customers' data. Customers' data, it's according to the business requirements. Sometimes maybe this customer data, it's regarding e-commerce solution. It's regarding to financial solutions. It's regarding to medical solutions. And the key persona within your solution is your customer. So the core persona, yani all the transactions will be surrounding these personas. You should have a concrete data retention model to which level and how long you will keep these data around this persona. And this is one of the core standards and regulations that published by the European Union in order to apply standards for saving the customer's data. It's the GDPR, it's a General Data Protection Regulation. So the objectives of having such a data retention model, number one, it's compliance with the international standards like GDPR. Yani you should save your customer data from the abuse, and since you don't need this data within your solution, you should eliminate it from your data model and terminate it permanently, as this is the right of the customer is not to share their data within your solution. This is number one. So number one, the legal compliance with the international standards. Number two, the security aspects. From security aspects, since you are increasing the touch surface for your data and providing more data for the hackers, you are decreasing the solution security. So from security aspects, you should decrease the touch surface and applying the defense in depth approach. So one of the defense in depth approach is to decrease the touch surface within your database level. And since you don't need more data for old or obsolete data regarding some of old customers, you should eliminate these data from your database, which is by applying data retention model. Number three, the performance optimization. Since you have millions of unused records within your solution, you are decreasing the performance of your database, because managing enormous number of records and huge amount of data models by its matrix vertically and horizontally, it will impact negatively on your solution performance. So from performance wise, you should terminate all these data by applying such a data retention model. And finally, from cost perspective, in order to decrease the cost of the solution, you should minimize the required storage for your data model. And in order to minimize the data storage for your data model, you should minimize the data that subject for being stored within your data architecture model. And that happens with applying one of the principles is to apply data retention model. So the ground rule for that is to define how long the data will be stored, and that can be by applying data classification model for your data model, which data should be stored for how long and it differ from data model to another. So this is the overall objectives of having data retention model. Number one, legal compliance. Number two, security aspects. Number three, performance optimization. Number four, the cost optimization. So moving forward for the approaches that we can apply in order to have data retention model, concrete data retention model, we have two approaches for applying data retention model. Number one, by table partitioning, which is complicated to be managed by, as it will be managed by the database administration team. And the other approach, let me share from my side here. Sorry. And the other approach is to have agents, and these agents are controlling the data retention model from end-to-end journey, from the definition of the data retention objects, the scheduler of these objects, and the run of the data retention procedures, and finally the rebuilding of these tables as having enormous number of operations on these data models will impact negatively the structure of the table, and these tables will subject to be rebuilt again. So it will this agents will take the responsibility for the overall end-to-end data retention model. So moving forward, for the data retention model architecture, number one, we should have a data retention policy alignment. What do we mean by data retention policy alignment? It means the alignment with the business team. The business team is the key stakeholder for defining the data retention policy, which data should be kept for how long within our solution. And this policy can differentiate between different data models. Maybe a set of transactions, the customer data itself may be resident within our solution for years, for up to 5 years. And this happen within the government solution. And sometimes we differentiate between the customer data and its related journeys or related transactions. We can keep its related transaction for 1 year or for 2 years. So we should classify the data according to its retention policy. Number two, building the scheduler agents. When we will run these schedules, upon which interval we will run these schedulers daily or weekly or monthly, in order to align with the, in order to prevent impacting the solution, as we have mission critical solutions and we should not touch these solutions during the operation day. So we should plan for the scheduler agents when to be run. And most probably the definition of these scheduler agents, it will be run out of the operation time and during the night shifts. And after that, we will generate the data retention procedures. As per each module, we will generate the data retention procedures in order to segregate between duties, to have single responsibility, one procedure or two procedures for each module, in order to have concrete definition of the data retention policy. And finally, upon the need of the rebuild for these data models, as since we are applying these data retention, since we are running these data retention procedures on daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis, that will impact the table structure, and most probably sometimes we need to rebuild these objects over the time, as most of the CRUD operation will impact the performance of the object, so we need to rebuild this table again. Okay, so moving forward. Number one, for the definition of the retention policy for each module, we will define such policy. For each module, we will link this module with specific database, because sometimes you are applying microservice architecture, and maybe the database, the microservice architecture يعني is applying database per service. And since one database is serving one specific module, you can have different schemas as per the journey, according to the purpose of the microservice. And upon the schema, within the schema, you can differentiate between the tables data retention. So you will have different tables within this schema. And within this table, you can define the data retention criteria. I will give here an example, assuming that you have e-commerce solution, and this you are applying microservice architecture, and this is the data retention policy for the purchase orders that take place for submission by the customer. And we define the data retention policy for these purchase orders to be 1 year. So within the let me, yeah, finally I found the laser pen. So within the purchase order database, within the PO schema, for the BO transactions, I will define to delete the data that for transactions that created greater than or equal 1 year from the running time. So, and attach this to a specific scheduler. And also I will differentiate between the run of the retention criteria and the scheduler and the rebuild, because maybe I will run this retention policy on daily basis, but the rebuild of this policy, it will run on monthly basis, as rebuilding the object may require shutdown, and that impact the operation. So I should differentiate between the running time of the data retention policy and rebuilding the object. So this is the core retention policy structure, that it should be automated, not to be created manually. So each module will define a schema. Within this generic schema, the module, for example, the purchase order, the overall solution, this retention policy is for the e-commerce solution. And here the module for the purchase order, and I will define the database and define the schema, define the table, define the retention criteria, the SQL that will be used for retention, and the attached scheduler, and finally the rebuild interval. Moving forward, per each module, we will define interval for each procedure, which procedure and will be run within which interval, and this will be replicated upon each module. And then we will build, this is the scheduler, and this is the scheduler, and if you will implement that within the database, it will be using the database jobs. And within each scheduler, I will attach specific procedure for reading the data, the related data for this module from the retention policy to be run within this procedure. And finally, I will define the data retention model for the rebuild functionality, as we differentiate here between the running of the criteria and the rebuild object, as we should not rebuild the objects each time, because that most probably will require system outage. So upon that, we have concrete model for the data retention and fully automated, and as we agreed, it should be aligned with the system, with the business users, and that impact as we mentioned, impact the security of the solution, the performance of the solution, the cost of the solution, and it should be applied specifically when you have a mission critical solution with enormous number of transactions. Thank you everyone for your attendance. If you need any support, feel free to contact me directly. Thank you.